Take two. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good morning, this is Mike Bowley, or otherwise known as MickMacMike when he's nervous, at Scripted Authenticity, home to Anthropomorphism, and also championing anthropomorphic storytelling. Your host, i.e. me, are here today on a wonderful and very cloudy, but it'll turn out to be a really hot day today here in Santiago de Cali, Colombia. Special day for me today. 1 year ago exactly, I was on a trolley heading towards an operating table, and that operating table is where they took out my heart, so it left my body, and my lungs collapsed. And apparently, according to the surgeon who looked after me, twice I died on the operating table because my blood was like a tsunami, as he mentioned, or he described. And for a little while there, I was trying my hardest to go to a different atmosphere. So you're thinking, well, what the hell happened there? Well, on the Friday before? No, on the Monday, because this was the Friday when I had the operation. On the Monday, I'd gone for a routine checkup to see whether I could have an operation at the end of the following week for an injury to my ankle, because I'd done a lot of running and walking throughout my life, and as all of us do, but I did a lot more running than most, and I had caused problems to my Achilles heel, and for the last 2.5 years it kept collapsing on me, especially in the most inopportune moments, like crossing a road, or usually crossing the road when there was heavy traffic around, and it would just collapse and down I would go. No warning. So the idea was to try and put that right. Lots of pain, 2.5 years of pain I've been having. And well, lo and behold, they asked me a few routine questions like, where's your family history? And I said, well, that's back in England. Oh, okay, well, tell us about your grandfather. Is he still alive? No, he died many, many years ago, back in the early 60s, I think it was. No, in the early 70s. Oh, okay. What did he die of? Well, he fell asleep one night and he didn't wake up in the morning. Apparently he'd had a heart attack in his sleep, so he went a nice, peaceful way. Okay. What about your father? Is he still alive? No, he went about 15, 16 years ago. Oh, okay. What happened to him? Well, he didn't fall asleep and not wake up in the morning. He actually got up in the morning, went to his local doctor to complain he had a bit of a chest problem, and then collapsed in front of him and died. He had a heart attack there and then. So he went, wow, how old was your grandfather and father when it happened to them? I said, my grandfather's 62, my grandfather's 64, my father's 62. Okay, how old are you then, Mike? If you don't mind us asking. No, I don't mind. I'm about to become 69 in a couple of months' time. Oh, 69, yeah. Okay, look, we're going to have to send you for some tests this morning, just to make certain it's safe to put you under come next week. So don't go running off today. Let's have the test done, and we'll talk to you as soon as we got the test back from the lab. So, okay. So off I went, and I will not describe the tests. One in particular, they worked on here. They went in here. Remember where that little bone is, or that big bone is that starts your hand, or your arm, I should say. They went there. Oh, that was so painful. I begged them to stop, but they didn't. I'm not very good with pain. In fact, I'm pretty useless. So they did all that, and then later in the afternoon, I still hadn't gone home. I'm sat there waiting for the doctors to come through, and then all of a sudden it was like a board of directors of a multi-conglomerate. They all came in. They all tripped in to see this Englishman that they were about to tell me some really great news for them. And they all sat down, and it turned out they all spoke English. Amazing. Here I am in South America, but all these learned doctors and all these different nurses and so forth all spoke English. A lot of them had done their training in America at some point in their lives. So really great bunch of people, I have to admit it. So they sat down and they said, okay, Mike, you're not going home this week. No, you're staying with us for a few months now. What are you all about? I've got work to do. No. We've discovered after the tests that one of your arteries is more than 80% blocked, so you shouldn't be here. You should actually be in a coffin somewhere by now, and yet you're not. And the other one is over 50% blocked, So we're worried about that one more than anything else, because it's really close to going into where we can't touch it. Okay, and we're just flabbergasted that you are here. They didn't say flabbergasted because that's an English type word, but you get the drift. I like the word flabbergasted. It's a word I couldn't say years ago. A bit like anthropomorphism. Haha, yes, I did it. Got it, I said it. Haha. Another one was adrenaline. I couldn't say that. I have to, even now, I have to think that one hard before it comes. All right. In fact, do me a favour. You ever get a chance, go to the comments down below and send me the word that you had difficulty in all your life with. Another one, just before I go back to the dreaded stuff, is compromise. I didn't know when I was a young boy. In fact, I didn't even know until I was 18, when I was in the Air Force, which I'll talk about that later. I used to say the word compromise as compromise. So let's come to a compromise, shall we? And everybody, we burst out laughing. Nobody corrected me. You know what kids are like, they don't correct anybody. So there I was, for the first 18 years of my life, going, let's go to a compromise, shall we? And it wasn't, it was compromise. And one day, it did happen in front of about 20 or 30 guys who were all drunk. We were down in a place called Rudlow Manor, in not far away from Swindon. And we were all having a drink one night, it was all nice and quiet, we were all having a laugh and a joke, and I happened to come out with, let's come to a compromise. And everybody stopped and roared with laughter. So I knew I'd said something wrong, and I said, what's wrong? And somebody said, say that word again. What word? What you just said. What? Compromise? Yeah, that's it, say it again. And people literally in fits there, rolling off the floor and everything else. It's like I was the best comedian, like I was the Billy Connolly of the Royal Air Force that day. And I didn't understand why. And then somebody turned around and said, Mike, have you ever heard of the word compromise? Compromise. And it was a penny dropped. And I went, have I been saying that word wrong all the way along? They said, yes, it's compromise. Say compromise. Okay, compromise. Say it again. Compromise. And from there on, I was okay. All right, so please, in the comments, give us the word that you have fun with and over the years. And next week, I'll read them out for you, okay? I'll out you to the world with your silly words that you had trouble with. Anyway, let's go back to my operation. So they said to me, says, right, we're going to be thinning your blood. We're using aspirin for the next 5 days. So we want to thin your blood right down. And I said, oh, don't tell me about aspirin. I said, what do you mean? I said, well, my father-in-law from my second marriage, Kathy's father, Tom, an Irishman, ex-farmer, wonderful guy, and was a good friend of mine. He was more than just a father-in-law, he was a good friend. And in these latter years of his life, every Wednesday, I always made certain I was free, and I would take him to, pick him up in the car, and I'd take him to the hospital for his warfarin injection, to thin his blood down. That's the way they did it in the UK. I don't know if they still do it now, but they did, 20 years ago. And I knew about aspirin, I knew what the effects that it has. And so I knew what was coming. And I said, so what are you going to do? I said, well, what we're going to do, Mike, is we're going to operate on you. You're going to have open heart surgery, and we're going to take one of the veins, and we're going to throw that away, and we're going to give you another one from somewhere else in your body. The chances are we'll take it from one of your legs, and that should hopefully put things right. Hopefully we'll clean up the other one. Okay. And you're going to do that on Friday? Yeah. First thing Friday morning, you're going under. Okay. Scared the life out of me. But we weren't going to show it, not at that point. You know, baby boomers don't show their fear if they can help it. No. So I just had to accept it. So for the next 4 or 5 days, my nerves got worse and worse. As that day in February got closer and closer, praying that I had enough strength to get me through it. Friday comes, along comes a trolley. I get on the trolley, lay my head down, and they're all being really nice to me. They're all walking with me and all trying to smile and keep my pecker up. And I just said, we went into a couple of lifts, down the stairs, up the stairs, all over the place. And eventually we got to the operating room. And I could see the doors were wide open, and there was other members of staff who I didn't know who were putting on their gloves and all getting themselves nice and ready for me. And I just went, stop. So he stopped. He said, what's wrong? What's wrong, mate? And I said, look, I have this premonition. If you wheel me in there, laying down, you will bring me out the same way, but I won't be breathing. I said, so if you don't mind, my little friend up here, MickMacMike, has said I should walk in. So if you don't mind, I'm going to walk in to this room. And that way, hopefully later on, I can know that I'm going to be walking out. And somebody says, and I heard the doctor shout out, the main doctor, let him do what he wants. If he wants to walk in, if he wants to run in, I don't care which, as long as he goes in. So I did. I just said no more, walked in, got onto the operating table, put my head back. The anaesthetist, who was a wonderful lady, I don't remember her name, but she was a wonderful lady. Again, her English was superb. Came up, went to go and do what she has to do with me, and I went, stop! And I was like, what's wrong now? What's wrong now? And I said, listen, I have to say this to you all as a gentle warning. As you do realise, I'm an Englishman here in South America, and you are all Colombians in South America. So if I don't survive this operation and you make a big huge balls up of it all, guess what? That's going to cause an international incident and you are all in for the chop. So if anything is going to galvanise you today, remember, you do not want to be part of an international investigation. And they all roared with laughter. Oh, I said, there's one other thing. I'm writing my book. I said, I've got up to chapter 70, so I've got 2 more to go. And it's took me 7 years to get to this point. Please give me some more months where I can finish the book. I don't care what happens to me after that. Just let me finish the book. And they said, anything else? I said, no, I'm going to go back to sleep now. And I laid my head back down and that was it. Out I went. Don't remember, obviously, anything in the operation, apart from what they told me that did happen afterwards. And they gave me a full running commentary afterwards. They came and all sat round me again. And they were just fantastic. They were such a great crowd at the Dime in Versailles. Dime, D-I-M-E, which in Spanish means tell me. They did. They tell me good and proper exactly what happened to me. And that I gave them a run for their money apparently for a little while there. So I will be forever grateful to those people. And they're just, hopefully this video will go to them one day to show them that I didn't waste my time in the last 12 months. They over the next few months, I spent the next 2 months, I think it was 2 to 3 months in hospital trying to get myself out every day, but my body wasn't strong enough to allow me to go home. They were worried about my lungs, because apparently what happens is when they open you up and they drag this all open, as they go to take the heart out, the lungs collapse. They stop working. And all this machinery then keeps you alive. Of course, when they put it all back again, they need your lungs to stop working again. And the lungs apparently are delicate little animals, and they don't want to work properly. And each day, I had to practice more and more blowing on this like a defibrillator type thing, and blowing and trying to train my lungs to work again. And that's what kept me in hospital the most, because they were a bit lazy, these two. But eventually they came working. I'm fine again now. I went on to do, in April last year, I went on to do a 5K race in Cali with about 30,000 people. And then in September, I went to Cali Zoo, where I did a 10K race with my wife, Christina. And loved it. Came in last both times because I wasn't allowed to run. I could walk the distances, which I was happy to do. Excuse me, as you may have heard in my voice, I've got man flu. Pardon me. I have man flu. I'll try not to cough too much to know it's bad for your ears. But I will have to blow my nose now and again. No, it's not man flu, of course. It's just a cold. It came yesterday on my anniversary to let me know that I think it was my body's way of saying, look, see, you did well. We waited a year to give you a cold. But at least it's not dengue. Dengue, I did get dengue. It's a nasty, horrible virus that comes from the mosquito. I don't know exactly where I was, but I was towards going, say, the southern side of the city, and I remember being in a waiting room, and they had a fountain there, and I felt mosquitoes round my legs. Thought nothing of it. I get the odd bite here and there, but it doesn't really affect me. Well, one of them did, and he was full of dengue, and he gave me a good wallop of it. A couple of days later, when the symptoms finally came, I got up one morning. I was shivering like you can never imagine, and I went into the shower and to try and wash myself, and I just knew I was in deep trouble. I knew it, and I was struggling with breath, everything, and I was waiting to collapse. And I turned to Christina. I said, "Christina, can you get me to hospital, please?" I just knew, and off I went to hospital, and I spent, I think, about 5 days fighting dengue for a while. And again, when they thin your blood down there, wow. Even when they're doing what do you call it, a blood test, normally they take the needle out and you put a little bit of rounded plaster of the little hole, and that's it. Later on, you get rid of that. Whew, I did that too early, and that blood came pouring out of my arm. It was like a fountain. But dengue, you don't want dengue. And I heard that dengue, because we're going through climate change, is moving the continents, and it's over in Africa and places like this, which means it will work its way up through Europe. At some point, dengue will go to the United Kingdom. It's a shame, but if it does, watch out. If you get dengue, it comes in different forms. There's not just one virus or one strip of virus. It comes in different ways, and it attacks in different ways. But if you ever get bitten by a mosquito and you start feeling terribly ill, get to that doctor fast and just say, "I've had a mosquito bite." Show them where the mosquito bite is, and they'll test you for dengue straight away. And get it sorted, because it's very debilitating, that one. And I say dengue, D-E-N-G-U-E, or D-U-E. I'm useless at words. Right, so let's go down MickMacMike's memory lane again. And life must continue where I was in the Royal Air Force. Now for a couple of funny stories. They're all true, these, but I'm going to tell you. There was one particular evening where I was in Germany, and a sergeant had come round the billets and picked a whole gang of us from different rooms who would just crash out and do nothing. And that night, we all went on special duties. And where we had to go to a forest. And we were told to dig some holes and get in the holes. I don't know why we did this, but this is back in the 70s. So we all dug our holes, and it started to rain on us. Nothing major, but it still was uncomfortable. And you could hear the different guys, because the humour is going to be fun. There's going to be jokes coming all over the place, because you can't see each other. But it's a way of, by telling the joke, you're saying, "Look, I'm still alive, and I'm lonely, and I want to hear somebody else's voice." And that's what we did. All right. Well, all of a sudden I heard this glug, 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 bang. Then I heard glug, 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 ding, ding. I thought, somebody's got some beers. And then I heard a third one go. I thought, wow, this guy's got a 6-pack. And then all went quiet for a little while. Everybody was listening to see what would materialise. And then in the distance, you could hear a rustle in the forest. And coming towards us, we knew somebody coming towards us. There was not just one, but 2 or 3 people. And then you hear glug, 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 ding, where the empty can bounced off one of the trees. And then all of a sudden you hear this, "Halt, who goes there?" And his voice, very posh voice, it was obviously an officer, and he went, "Donald Duck." And in the darkness we heard, "Well, Waddle Ford and Quacky Lass 3. Yeah, that's what I heard. I was about 18 or 19 when I heard that. Oh, I cried myself to sleep in that foxhole that night. Probably in the same year, In you have your local discotheques and you have your big halls where acts would come over from the UK or from other parts of Europe, and they come and entertain us. And the army at the south side of this, the RAF Rhiannon, a massive big place in his day, that had the army entertainment centre, and then up in the northern side we had the RAF one. I can't remember what it's called now. Queens, I think it was called the Queen. I can't remember. We'll call it Queens, and Queen's Centre. So, and next to the Queen's Centre was another bar, very small, and this was known as the Pigs Bar. This is where if you just want to go in there, get drunk. Women tried to avoid it like the plague because lots of foul language and foul play went on in there, and it's where guys just went in to let off steam, and invariably there'll be a fight or two in there. Well, as I said to you before, I'm a lover, not a fighter. I'm not very good at fighting, so I won't bother boring you with that. So I goes in one day, and inside this bar there was a thing called a Zop machine. I don't know why they call it a Zop machine, but maybe it's because it was made in Germany and Zop means something to them. What I know is we called it the Zop machine, and it was one of those games where you got little handles on either side and you played football against each other. So you had these like three men, three figurines each section, so your attackers, your defenders and your midfield, and of course you had a goalie at the other end, and you had to get a plastic ball down somebody else's hole into their goal. This particular night I've got myself a beer, and I wasn't a very good drinker, not of any alcohol, not very good, didn't last me long, it always set me do-dally quite early. And I'm looking, and there's some Italians, and they're showcasing their skills as they're ding, and they over-exaggerated. They really wanted to perform in front of us Brits. So this went on. So if you wanted to play a game, what you did was you took a Deutschmark in those days, and you put it on the side, a bit like you do when you want to play billiards or snooker, and you put your coin down to tell everybody that you're waiting your turn. Same thing. So we did this with a Deutschmark. Anyway, these two guys went on and on and on. It just would not stop. So in the end, I walked over. Now, hopefully there's no children listening to this, but I was fed up. I went over and I looked at these guys, and I then zipped myself, and I proceeded to urinate all over the Zop machine. Everybody in the bar stopped. And the Italians stopped eventually, and they looked at me and they went, "What are you doing?" Well, in Italian, "What are you doing?" That's Mexican. And I said, "Rain stops play." And the place fell apart laughing. Unbeknownst to me, there was two RAF corporals at the bar in uniform, and they were policemen. Of course, I can't ignore what I'd just done. So I never got to play Zop that night because I got arrested. Yeah, I was arrested for damaging Royal Highnesses, HRH's military equipment, something like that on those lines. But anyway, I was arrested and I was put on a charge. The next day, I marched into my officer's office, and his name was Bernie. Wonderful guy. I suspect he's long gone now, but he was old school. He was the guy, one of the guys that was around in World War II. And when I ever used to laugh and joke with him, I used to say, "You were here in World War One." And he loved us guys. He thought we were great. But anyway, he's overstayed really his time in the Air Force. He was never going to be any good in Civvy Street. And he's in charge of this case. So I've been marched in right in front of him by my sergeant and the corporal. And he's looking down at the sheet of paper in front of him. And then he looks up and he goes, name, rank and number. So I gave him that. And he said, "All right. Do you realise what you're here for today?" "Yes, sir." "Okay. Do you know what charge you've been put on?" "No, sir." "Well," and he tells me what charge it is. "Now, how do you plead?" "Guilty, sir." "Oh, okay. You feel guilty, do you?" "Yes." Why did you do it? So I explained the situation. I was a little bit drunk. I wanted to play the Zop machine, and these two Italians had annoyed me so much that I just turned around and said, "Rain stops playing," and they pissed all over the table. Well, the moment I said that, the corporal fell next to me into a heap. The sergeant started giggling and trying his hardest not to, and the officer, Lieutenant Bernie, head went down, and you could see his shoulders going. And I thought, it's not a funny joke. I don't know what's going to happen to me here. So eventually, when these three guys get their act together, he turns around and says to me, "Will you accept the Queen's punishment?" I said, "Yes, sir." Okay. Loss of earnings for the next 7 days. I just lost £7, I think it was. £7 a week. I've just lost £7. It means I can't drink or eat or anything like that for the next week. March him out. And that was it. I got marched out. I met Bernie many times after that. And one day he did come to me when he was due to go back to England. And he turned and said to me, he says, "When you went on that charge that day, that was one of the funniest charges I've ever had in the Royal Air Force." And he said, "Thank you, Mike, for that." He says, "I will roar with laughter. And I used you many times in the officers' hall. And we all decided to get together and have a few bevies, and we talk about you young guys and the things you get up to." So, Bernie, if you are still alive, and your Corpus Modi, or whatever those words are, and you hear this, thank you. You were a great guy, and just thank you. Thank you for everything. Okay, so that's the Zop machine. Next one. Well, right, this is me again, MickMacMike. I've been posted from overseas, and I've arrived in Rutland Manor, which, as I say, is near Swindon. And we're in caves. As I said to you last week, we're going to caves, and they were proper caves. And one of the first tasks I've got to do is to go to the local kitchens that we have and make everybody a cup of tea. And I'm going to use one of these, there's these big tea tanks or big water tanks that you heat up and you make a big pot of tea. So I've gone in there. I've never used one before. You know, I've had everything on the plate. I've had my mum and dad feeding me like I don't know what till I was 16, 17. Joined the military, and I've got the whole military feeding me, looking after me. So at no point had I learned how to make a cup of tea. Well, I made all this big pot of tea for all these guys, gone out, and I'm handing tea everywhere. And by the time I got, I think, to the 13th or 14th guy, all I heard was one bloke go, and he sprayed the whole place. "What is this tea?" I looked, and what's wrong? I've still got another 15 to go out. I'd made the tea with cold water. I hadn't eaten up the pot. And so I got called every name under the sun. And I was made to go back and redo it all again. So, and I think I'd only been on that RAF camp probably 2 or 3 days at the most. So I built a name for myself as the idiot who doesn't boil tea. Now I want to go back to Germany again for one more story this week. And while I was in Rhiannon, they had the canteen that we all used. You have to excuse me a second, I can feel a sneeze coming. I'm going to try not to disturb you guys with it, so just bear with me. I do apologise for that, it's not professional, but I'm trying to stop myself from sneezing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, yeah, I can get it. So yeah, there I am, and I decided I didn't want the usual food this day. And remember, I was 17 going on towards 18 years of age. I have never eaten a steak in my life at that point. I've been in a restaurant, so things that we take for granted this day and age, they weren't there when I was a young boy. But what was there in this big steakhouse in this place is you could go from where they serve you the normal food, you go through to the main room, which is where everybody sat and ate their meals, and at the far end was like a steak bar or burger bar, and you can go up there and there'll be a chef and you can order something to be cooked for you there and then. So I've gone walking up and I've decided I'm going to have my first steak ever in my life. So I walked up and there was this German chef. So I come up to, I can't do my German right now, but I came up and he asked me what I wanted. And I said, I'll have a steak, please. How do you want it? I don't know. Cooked. Cooked. That's what I said. And he goes, what? Cooked? Medium? Rare? Or blue? Or well done? Medium. Okay. The next thing is gets a steak or lobs it onto the grill just behind him. And as that happens, I see this wasp flying over, and next thing is straight onto the steak. He sat on the steak, and no word of a lie, this happened split second afterwards. A spatula appeared in this German chef's hand, and looking at me, he went ding, and he zapped the wasp right on the head, straight into my steak, held him there, and you heard that sizzle, 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 and the wasp was no more. He then got the steak, turned it over, continued cooking it, turned it back. I couldn't see the wasp, so I don't know where it went. And then he put the steak on a plate with some a little bit of salad and some pommes frites, passed it over to me, and I hadn't said a word. I didn't say a word, and I picked it up, turned around, and I went over to the table and I sat down, and I had to imagine where this wasp had died on my steak, and I ate around it in total silence. So things that we all do. There it was. I had my first steak and wasp lunch that day. I do apologise. I got a coughing fit coming, so I'm going to stop for a second.